It's the 21st show. I'm Brian Mackey. For a long time, Los Angeles has been the capital of the filmmaking industry in America, but that has been changing. In Illinois, more than $700 million were spent on film productions last year, and it's not all in Chicago. Central Illinois got a piece of the action as well. A local production company called Shatterglass Films has made a new Roger Ebert documentary, The Last Movie Critic. And last year, stars like Bryan Cranston and John Goodman filmed a comedy called Chili Finger around Monticello and Paxton with the help of Flyover Film Studios, which has its production base in Rantoul. Both of those films are going to be showing at Ebert Fest this coming weekend in Champaign, alongside major releases like Nuremberg and Get Out. Fittingly, Ebert Fest will feature the premiere of The Last Movie Critic. I should say, tomorrow we plan to talk with Chaz Ebert and the festival director, Nate Cohn, as they prepare to bring the curtain down on Ebert Fest in its current form, which is ending after more than a quarter of a century. But for the rest of today's show, we're going to talk about what it's like to make movies in Central Illinois. So let's start with Chili Finger, the comedy. Sarah Sharp is co-producer and production manager on the film and one of the co-founders of Flyover. Sarah, welcome to the 21st show. Sarah, are you with us? Okay, Sarah, I think you're with us. So I'm going to ask you, I'll just dive right in. What motivated you and some other folks to start Flyover Film Studios?
Hi, Brian. Flyover Film Studios initially started as a group of freelance filmmaker hoarders all coming together to figure out how we can preserve the good parts of what it takes to make films, between the wood that's needed to build a set, the clothing that this background character wore that maybe this focal character could wear. We all really struggled with how wasteful the industry was. So we started a collaborative storage situation initially to try to figure out how we could hold things film to film, very similar to how a lot of theater communities operate. And that just is kind of a gap in the film industry. Traditionally films and TV shows, when they shoot something and wrap out, they don't own the building, they don't have storage or whatever. So there's so many things that are just thrown away. And that was something that we all really valued. We valued making good films, and we valued making them in a way that not sustainable and just a hip word of saying it, but sustainable in a way that any budget can make a project that looks good. So that was what brought us all. We'd all worked on films together initially, but that was a core part of Flyover.
Yeah, and I should say, I understand you did not hear any of the introduction I read, so sorry about that, a little technical challenge on our end, so thank you for rolling with it.
No, that's totally fine.
So I did set up a little bit Chili Finger. It was some of the big names who featured in that. So how does a production like that end up filming in Central Illinois? Walk me through the process.
Well, I'm actually so excited because I have had so many people, students and adults, reach out to me here lately to ask about how important networking is, not just in the film industry, but just generally in everything that you do. And this is the ultimate story of networking. So I actually did a film with a gentleman who was the mentor of the producer of Chili Finger back in 2020, I think it was 2020, the 2020 or 2021. And we did a very ambitious film together. It was in Chicago. We didn't even do it in Champaign. No one lived here at this point. We were all somewhere else shooting a totally different movie, but we created a good experience. There was there was good leadership. There was just a tremendous work ethic. This producer himself was just a really lovely guy. I'll call him out. Seth Kaplan. He's a great dude if anyone ever gets to work with him. And anyway, the network expanded. Essentially his mentoree, Sam Sanchez, had been producing this film with Ed and Steven, the directors of Chili Finger, and they were looking for a home to shoot Chili Finger, which is a film that they had been working on for years. He mentioned it to Seth. Seth said that he had a great experience with a group in Illinois. Sam got a hold of me. I then lived in Champaign at the time, which was way more fitting for Chili Finger's story. And kind of the rest is history. It's really just power networking. And making friends as you go and working with the people that you want to work with. So, but Chili Finger is the ultimate like kind of networking story. I'm so glad to be able to say that on the air for
Yeah,
people who are
yeah.
listening.
Well,
Yeah,
it's often as we say, it's not only what you know, it's who you know. So obviously, the star actors
definitely.
are
Yeah.
coming from out of town. How much of a role does local talent play in a production like this, though? Both on and off camera.
It's pretty huge because honestly, is the local talent is how you're going to get the project to begin with. Like, even though, like, yes, the A-lister may be who's on the poster, but ultimately, like, bottom line, you're going through your budget and figuring out where to place your project. If your area has no local offering, on screen, off screen crew, gear, whatever, generators, like, even like the most basic of stuff, that is so expensive just to shoot in a place that is cool or quote unquote feels like a story. So I mean that was it was a big discussion. I mean, we really talked to the Chili Finger guys for well over a year, and initially like that was a concern. They were not familiar with Champagne. Did Champagne have any crew or cast? Did it have anybody? And but during that time, we had so much actually in development that they were willing to take a chance on it. And as people will see in the movie, those who will get to go to Ebert Fest, you couldn't have done a movie like that without a tremendous amount of local talent, specifically on screen. There's so many extras. There's so much like the background makes the world very real. And picture cars, houses, where we were shooting, and then on the crew side, it's very it took a ton of crew to make Chili Finger operate. So, but if that didn't exist, they would not have been here. Local talent is ultimately when you're making a project the first the first line of defense you have to get through to make sure it's present wherever you're going.
Excellent. Well, Chili Finger stars Judy Greer, Sean Astin, Bryan Cranston, and John Goodman. It'll be screening at the Virginia Theater in Champaign during Ebert Fest. It's at 3:40 this Saturday afternoon. We'll have more of the details on our website, 21stshow.org. Sarah Sharp with Flyover Film Studios. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
It's the 21st show. We are talking for the last part of our program today about a couple of movies made right here in Central Illinois. We'd been talking until now about the comedy Chili Finger, and now let's move to The Last Movie Critic, the new documentary about Ebert Fest's namesake, Roger Ebert. It's actually premiering at the festival Friday afternoon. It was written, edited, and directed by Luke Boyce, who is also the founder of Shatterglass Films. He joins us now. Luke, welcome to the show.
Yes, Brian, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Roger Ebert's a man about whom much has been written and said.
Mhm.
How did you come to make a film about him?
Oh man, well, I have a very long history with the festival. My Shadowglass Studios, my commercial production company, that Shadowglass Films came from. We've been shooting Eberfest every year since 2011. So every year we would get a crew together and make basically a small documentary, usually about 10 minutes or so, of that year's festival. So interviewing all the guests and getting, talking to festival goers and things like that. And so we accumulated a lot of interviews and a lot of footage. And then at one point, we built an iPad app. We were in the process of building an iPad app that you could go in and look at old years from the festival. So they had all these the original years from 1999 to the early 2000s of Q&As and introductions that Roger had done for every movie until he lost his voice in 2006. And so we those had never really been seen. They were in a box, and we started digitizing and transferring all those tapes. So we had this archive of that footage as well. And then in 2013, when Roger passed away, we kind of put a little bit more effort into that festival because he had died right just a couple weeks before the festival, and so that particular video that year won us an Emmy actually, and so it was on the backs of all that work and all that content and stuff that we talked to Nate Cohen, who is the festival director, about turning it into some kind of a feature film. And we it went through a couple iterations trying to figure out, okay, what does that look like? how do you make a film kind of about Ebertfest in a way, kind of about Roger, but it's not a Ebertfest commercial. And so yeah, it just sort of it took many years of development to try to kind of find that story, but eventually it kind of told itself as we kind of went through and developed it and kind of came out as what is currently the film.
Yeah, I wonder if you can sell me on the premise of your title, right? That Ebert
Yep.
was the last movie critic.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thesis of the film. It basically follows a film student who is trying to understand, okay, what happened to film criticism? She's sort of living in a time when film criticism is very different than it used to be, and her in the film she mentions her professor gave her this book about Roger, and so she decides to investigate what made Roger different. Why was he different? And as so she goes to Ebertfest. So Ebertfest becomes kind of a character and a setting in the film, very important one because it is at Ebertfest in sort of this magical realism kind of way, where the spirit of Roger Ebert guides her through what is kind of a version of Ebertfest. So we see four different films that Roger championed through his life as some of his favorite films. Three of the four of which played at Ebertfest, and so we cut to the Q&As and the introductions that Roger gave of those films, and we hear Roger in a very special technological way read his writings on those films, and so it's essentially kind of telling the film student who is a placeholder for the audience, we kind of just get to experience Roger, which is something I think that we're losing today. A lot of people don't know about Roger as much as they used to. He hasn't been on television in a very long time, and so he was formative for a lot of people. And so we're hoping that this film kind of is a reminder and kind of reintroduces the magic of Roger Ebert to audiences
Yeah.
and why he believed what he believed and his mission about movies.
I'll say that. I mean, for myself, as when I was a young newspaper reporter 22 years ago, I certainly looked up to him and counted him as an inspiration for what I was doing. Just
Yeah.
a couple of minutes left. What does it mean for Central Illinois to be losing Ebertfest, it seems, after this year?
It's tough. It's tough. I think it's part of a scary epidemic to me about how we're losing the theater going experience, which to me I think the film deals a lot about. We talk in the film, we hear Roger talk about the importance of seeing a movie on a big screen projected through light in front of an audience that is giving it its all. And so I think that we just forget that there is an energy and a power in watching something together. Um, Movies, I think, are of all the arts are one of the most unique of the arts because they are, as Paul Cox said, shared dreaming. You all get into a room and you all experience this sort of shared empathy together with the characters on screen. And at Ebertfest in particular, I think one of the things that's always been special to me is that if you watch, you can even watch a comedy you've seen a million times, but the laughs are bigger and they're stronger, or the drama is more potent and the cries are bigger. You know what I mean? When you're in a row of people who are all just absolutely, you can feel the attention, and everyone's giving it their all. It's very different. I know people say, "Oh, you can just watch the movie at home." This is totally different. When you watch a movie in a theater with people, you get something more from the film. And so, it's something I think we're losing. I think it's something we're forgetting about as a culture. And I think Ebert Fests are some of the, remaining pillars that sort of do that because that's what Roger did. Is the only festival that a film critic created, invited people to come watch movies at his thing that he picked, and you all just sit there as if you're in his big giant movie palace living room and watch movies together with Roger there. And so yeah, I think losing it is it's a shame. And I hope it can still find a way to exist. I know Chaz is interested in how else she can do it. And maybe one day it comes back. Who knows? I think the benefit of any kind of important cultural art thing like this is that eventually we
Yeah.
crave it, just like vinyl resurgence and all these other things. We sort of crave that analog shared. experience together. So
Yeah. All right. Luke Boyce is the writer, editor, and director of The Last Movie Critic, which premieres at Ebert Fest Friday afternoon this week. Luke, thanks so much for being with us today on the 21st Show.
thank you. I appreciate it.
And I should say we are talking with Chaz Ebert and the director of Ebert Fest tomorrow on the 21st Show. But that is all the time we have for today. The 21st Show is a production of Illinois Public Media. I'm Brian Mackey.